Let's see, JD says, what if you can't take the NSAID? Well, then, JD, if you're talking about to reduce the fever, if you can't take the NSAID, then you have other option. You have the Tylenol as an option. Again, you have to weigh when that time would be right for you, or if that time would even come. A lot of people will get a kind of a low grade 102 fever. And in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, if your fever is 102, 103, and you're still somewhat functional, then I think my opinion is let it ride. You can use cold compresses. You can use a cooler bath, Epsom salt bath. Not when I say cool, I don't mean cold. I mean just kind of lukewarm, where you're getting in that, and it's trying to help bring your body temperature down. So there are a number of other strategies that you can use to reduce your fever safely and naturally. Kevin wants to know about safe levels of zinc daily. Safe levels for most people, adults, 100 milligrams a day is a pretty safe level. You have to be careful long-term dosing with that. If you long-term dose zinc, you can actually create a copper deficiency. So when I say long-term, I mean if you're doing it for greater than 2-3 months, you really should start thinking about your copper status as well. Yeah, so Matthew Gibbs wants to know, in general, when should you lower fever above 104? Again, it's a case-by-case basis. And so this is where I know it's kind of a cop-out answer for me to say this to you, but you should get with your doctor to make that decision if you're not certain or you're not sure. I always say one of the best judges of this is mom. Mom's intuition is one of the best judges of when you start to break a fever when you shouldn't. It's because moms have like that magic, I'll say a magic radar, but they just really do. They have that intuitive ability to know, okay, it's time to get it down. So, as a parent, those of you with small kids, those of you even who maybe aren't parents, but just wondering when to lower a fever, using your own intuition and your own good judgment is also something that I think is underrated today. Like, you don't want to outsource all the decisions to other people who aren't living in your body, and paying attention to how you feel and when you should lower that fever. Sometimes you can make that decision on your own. So Marie wants to know, hey doc, I wanted to follow your advice on NAC, but I can't find acetylcysteine in my country. I ordered your products, but they can't make through customs. Is acetylcysteine the same as N-acetylcysteine? Yes, it is, Marie. It's also the same as N-acetyl L-cysteine. So you'll see it written in those different variations, but it's all NAC at the end of the day. As long as you see N-acetylcysteine or NAC or N-acetyl L-cysteine, those are all synonymous with each other. Barb says, I've heard quercetin's hard to absorb. How much do you suggest to take? So quercetin's not hard to absorb if you take it in the right form. Dihydrate form, which is what I use. We have something called Ultra Q, which is 1,000 milligram pills of quercetin in the water-soluble form. So it's really well absorbed. If you're just doing kind of, let's just say, immune support, you can take, my advice would be to take 2 a day, just kind of general health, 2 a day for good support. If you're talking about more aggressive use, I have people take up to 8 a day quercetin, 8 grams a day to get through rougher spots. So it's anywhere from 1 gram all the way up to 8 grams a day of water soluble version. If you're Tamiflu, some people are asking, Mary wants to know about Tamiflu. Thing about Tamiflu, there's no documented evidence that Tamiflu does anything for COVID-19. So, if your doctor prescribed it to you and you've got a good relationship with that doctor, have that conversation with that doctor. It's really hard for me to say, but there's no research that shows that Tamiflu is going to do anything for COVID-19. So, Sandy wants to know if quercetin has the potential ability to help people with acute asthma. Possibly. Again, if we go back and look at the mechanism of action, quercetin blocks COX enzyme, but it also blocks PLA2. If we can put that second one back up on the board, I can kind of, again, I want to just show you the picture of it. That one right there. No, keep going. Actually, that one will work. We can use this one. So you see, if you're looking at the screen right now, what you're seeing is, again, you're seeing on the left-hand side, you see that PLA2 enzyme. Well, steroids and bioflavonoids, and just so you know, bioflavonoid quercetin is one of the most potent bioflavonoids, period. So you can replace that word bioflavonoid for quercetin. Then, so you see that's one way that quercetin works to help with inflammation. Then you go over to the COX enzyme, and you can see that NSAIDs, ginger, turmeric, and bioflavonoids. So again, turmeric can help with this too, and ginger as well. But bioflavonoid, again, meaning quercetin, can help with that. So quercetin has two mechanisms of action. It binds to PLA2 or blocks the conversion of PLA2 to create prostaglandin E2, but it also binds to COX enzymes and prevents them from creating prostaglandin E2 in mass. So it can help in that regard. It has those known mechanisms. Now, should you use that to treat acute asthma? My advice would be don't try to take anything to treat acute asthma. Try to find out more what actually is creating the acute asthma. For most people, the asthma is either coming from an environmental agent, in which case quercetin has been shown in a number of studies to help to stabilize mast cell release. So mast cells are those cells that release chemicals that cause all the symptoms of allergy. Same thing happens with asthma, or can happen in asthmatic situations. So quercetin as a bioflavonoid has been shown, and there are a number of research studies that have shown that quercetin has a really great anti-inflammatory effect that way. But a lot of people's asthma is actually caused by things like wheat. The wheat can induce asthma, gluten can induce asthma, dairy can induce asthma, other foods can induce asthma. So if you haven't had your food levels checked or haven't had your food tested to see, that would be a better thing than to just take quercetin indefinitely. Okay, so let's go back to the questions. Shauna, how do you spell what? Quercetin. Yeah, somebody's typed it in, and actually it's been on the board plenty now, so I think we've answered that question. So Nancy wants to know where can we find it, and when we should take it. I mean, if we could pop up Ultra Q in the feed. What I'll do, Nancy, is I'll put up Ultra Q is a high dose quercetin, water soluble quercetin. I'll put that up in the feed. That's where you can find it. And when you should take it is up to you. You could take it at any time. Mary wants to know, Dr. Osborne, I'm receiving so many messages from people regarding mass doses of vitamin C, hydrating therapy. Are you getting these messages too? It's very confusing. There are a lot of people out there right now that are talking about a lot of different things, and I don't want to pass judgment or even really qualify their statements, because I get all these emails and I delete them. People that send me emails about vitamins and minerals and other things for immune support. I mean, I consider myself to be the expert, so I generally don't get confused by other people who maybe aren't the experts but are promoting things that I might not recommend. Again, I can't judge the information that you're getting. I would just say that, Mary, if you're tuning into the Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain show, everything we talk about is research-based. Everything we talk about is experience-based and practice-based, which is different than people who are sending emails out that don't really practice, that don't have any real-world experience and application using these things. I think there's a big difference between being an academic and being somebody who's in the trenches doing this stuff on a regular basis with people. And so that's all I can really say to that comment. So what about fever in children? The same thing applies, Linda. With fever in children, I think the same kind of general rule applies. Let's see here. Angeline says, hi, Dr. Osborne. I'm taking 8,000 milligrams of omega-3 EPA and DHA for my arthritis. Is high-dose fish oil a good idea at the time of corona? I love this question, Angeline. Let's go back to that last slide, Mel, with the diagram. I'm going to show you something, Angeline. I didn't really comment on this. I just didn't want to get so deep in the biochemistry that everybody was bored and tuned out. But look at the slide. If you can look at the slide, look up at the top on the right. It says COX enzyme, and to the right of that, you'll see omega-3 fats. And so one of the functions of omega-3 fats is that they actually compete with the COX enzyme to break down arachidonic acid. So this is one of the reasons why omega-3 fats are anti-inflammatory. This is why a lot of people take them for arthritis, because remember, arthritis is an inflammatory condition. Well, remember that the damage that viruses cause, that damage occurs as a result of inflammation as well. So making sure that you have adequate omega-3 to support your immune system is one of the most important things that you can do. So, they're really, in normal times, in regular times, there are just a few different supplements that I personally take on a regular basis. And one of them is vitamin C, and one of them is a good quality multivitamin, but the third is a really potent omega-3 fatty acid. And the reason why is I just don't eat enough cold water fish to get the level of omega-3 that's necessary on a day-to-day basis. So omega-3 is a great thing to take. Now let's go back to Angeline's question, which is you're taking 8,000 milligrams or 8 grams a day. You can use that. It's a very therapeutic dose, and you can use that. What I would tell you to pay attention to, Angeline, is if you start bruising really easy, or if you start seeing like spontaneous nosebleeds, or if you get a cut and it just won't clot, it just keeps bleeding and bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, that may mean that your level of omega-3 is too high. Remember, one of the side effects of omega-3 is it inhibits PGE2, but we didn't talk about this. It also inhibits thromboxane A2. So thromboxane A2 is important for platelet aggregation. So your platelets are sticky, and they're what clot your blood or help your blood to clot. So if you're taking too much anti-inflammatory that has an effect on this, it can actually cause you to bleed a little bit more. This is why omega-3 fatty acids have a thinning effect on the blood. And at that dose and getting even higher can have that effect. Now, if you're not experiencing those things, then you're okay. But is taking omega-3 a good idea right now? In my opinion, it's a great idea right now. And if you're not on omega-3, I highly recommend any of you listening, if you're not a big cold water fish person and you're not on an omega-3, it's one of the best things that you can take, and kind of think of it as a kind of a baseline good dose for just solid nutrition is 2 grams a day. Monica Sheck, we get this question a lot, but I'm going to answer it again. Is elderberry syrup helpful? Elderberry is helpful, and there's this big myth going around the internet right now that elderberry causes a cytokine storm. Throw that myth in the garbage with the person whoever created that myth. It's total nonsense. Elderberry does not cause a cytokine storm. The problem with elderberry syrups, however, is that they contain sugar. And so if you're using a lot of elderberry syrup and you're getting a lot of sugar with that, sugar is not a good idea right now. So this is, again, one of the reasons why my Virid, which is one of my favorite formulas for immune support, is Virid has elderberry in it, and it's not in a syrup form. It's in a pill form, and you can swallow it, and you can still get the benefit of elderberry without all the syrup. So Corinne wants to know, if you give the body calcium, it doesn't have to raise the temp to pull calcium from the bones. Yeah, I'm not sure I understand your question. Maybe if you reword that for me, I can understand what you're asking. I can give you a better answer. Let's see here. Juan, hi. Since many celiacs suffer from low stomach acid, shouldn't they supplement on an empty stomach with HCl caps, easier digestion? It's a great question, and the answer is yes and no. And here's why. Gosh, we're going to run out of room again. So we look at a stomach, just kind of a general drawing of a stomach, right? The stomach's lined with these cells called parietal cells. And these parietal cells secrete acid. And what happens to some celiacs, the kind of the wrong thought and the pervasive belief is that celiac disease is only a disease of the small intestine. Well, this is the stomach, and this is the small intestine down here. And so the pervasive myth is that celiac damage only occurs in the small intestine, and that's not true. It actually can occur in the stomach. There are a lot of cases of gastritis where these cells become damaged, and they can damage your body's ability to make that acid. So if these cells get damaged, it reduces your acid. And so then in that case, taking like an acid supplement like a betaine hydrochloride, or we use, my formula is called Ultra Acid, taking that could be beneficial for you. But if you are a celiac who eats well, controls your diet, maybe you had gastritis originally from the gluten exposure, but it's now healed and now you can produce stomach acid adequately, it may not be the right move for you. So it depends. It depends on whether or not you're an active celiac having active damage, or whether you're a celiac that's in remission because you've changed your diet and you're living healthier. Greg's wants to know, does apple cider vinegar actually help anyone? I've never noticed anything from taking it. It can. I mean, apple cider vinegar, speaking of acid, it's a mild acid. So some people, report improvement of digestion, and those people that typically report that have this type of problem where their stomach acid is already a little bit low. So question on the COX-1 and 2 inhibitors. Do they alter vasoconstriction, effectuating the relief? What COX inhibitors really do ultimately, and some of them have been researched to increase the risk for heart disease. Some have been shown to increase the risk for other problems like, gastric bleeding, intestinal bleeding, vitamin C deficiency, iron deficiency, folate deficiency. Again, I don't recommend COX-1 or COX-2 inhibitors for any great length of time. Definitely not chronic use, not without finding the origin of why the problem exists in the first place. Yeah, so Bobette's asking, instead of NSAIDs, could cool baths work? Yes, they could. They could be a strategy in your repertoire for trying to reduce a fever. I think I answered the question on Tylenol already. I think I answered the comment on how much quercetin. It's a 2 to 8, really 1 to 8 grams a day. Melissa wants to know, do I have nutritional recommendations for a child with mycoplasma pneumonia? Lots of them, but they would all be based around proper testing and proper evaluation, so no generic ones. So Daniel's having continued diaphoresis or sweating on the palms and feet with syncopal episodes while intermittent fasting, using keto as the vehicle to accomplish. So you may have a blood sugar problem, Daniel. Have you checked your fasting blood sugar? Especially if you're having syncope, you could very well be your blood sugar could be dropping too low, and even using a ketogenic diet as a vehicle. If you're not keto adapted, then that can be part of the kind of the what some people refer to as the keto flu, that initial stage of keto. Let's see here. So Susan says, hi from Italy, not allowed out yet. Susan, I'd love for you to chime in the feed and just tell us how things are going in Italy. I think a lot of people, we look at our media outlets and we look at our media sources, and a lot of them are biased. A lot of them are very misleading. And I'd love for somebody who's actually inside the trenches of Italy to kind of give some feedback on what actually is going on over there, Susan. So if you don't mind chiming in about what's happening, that'd be great. I think the audience would greatly appreciate it too. So Lori says, is quercetin better for one who has hemochromatosis because vitamin C is not recommended? Because vitamin C does not actually absorb iron. Vitamin C increases the absorption of iron. So yes, in that regard, you could use quercetin as an alternative. So Virginia wants to know about how much vitamin C. Now, I did a whole show on that, Virginia, if you haven't gone back. And so those of you who maybe are new tonight and haven't tuned in to Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain before, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And make sure you sign up on our newsletter list over at glutenfreesociety.org so that we can send you updates, as we put updates out. But and so that you can access our archives of videos. But vitamin C, how much vitamin C to take right now is dependent upon weight for most people, but it's also dependent on something called bowel tolerance. So you take as much as your bowel will tolerate without creating diarrhea. If we're talking about oral vitamin C. So Mary says, may not be very smart in this area. That's okay, Mary. That's why you're here to learn. What causes you to run a fever of 100 to 104 plus? You may have already said it. Again, the fever is being induced largely by the release of different chemicals as a result of cellular damage. So as a virus, or even if we're not talking about a virus, a bacteria, or any other microorganism that creates an infectious process, can create cellular damage that leads to the release of arachidonic acid and subsequently the production of prostaglandins and thromboxanes and other cytokines that actually stimulate or trigger the inflammatory response that can also spike a fever. Your body's natural response to try to fight a bad guy is to mount a fever, because it's that fever that your body uses to try to purge as much of that microorganism as it can possibly purge. So the fever is actually, this is one of the reasons why a lot of researchers and a lot of doctors say let a fever ride, because the fever is actually beneficial for the actual infection. And if you break a fever every time it starts to happen, you don't get the potential benefit of that fever. So Wanda wants to know, why aren't they using chloroquine when they've had good results? You know, I can't answer for that. There are side effects to chloroquine use, and that's something that's they're not really talking about in great deal. I think there are a lot of options for doctors to use. And again, this is my opinion. I really wish they would get the studies on vitamin C done, because I really strongly believe that IV vitamin C is probably going to be one of the best mechanisms to help support the recovery of these chronically sick or acutely sick, acutely infected people. I don't think chloroquine is a magic answer at all. Let's see. Let's see here. Amber, will hospital personnel allow you to request quercetin, or will they give you what they want? Good luck with having a hospital give you quercetin, Amber. You say that word and they're probably going to look at you like you got zombie horns coming out of your head. No, you got to. Quercetin is something you're going to do voluntarily on your own if it's something that you're interested in doing. Again, we put that link up. I don't know if we put it up on that feed, but we'll get that link up for you if you're interested in using quercetin as an agent to support immune health. Let's see. Maggie says, my daughter started taking NAC and said that her lungs felt better than they have in a long time. She has non-critical asthma and thanked me profusely for suggesting it after watching your NAC video. Rock on, Maggie. If I could give you a high five across the YouTube screen, I would do it. I love hearing those kinds of stories. I agree, Marilyn. I wish the media would stop reporting the CV deaths without also stating when and if they were underlying, if there were underlying issues. Look, here's my opinion on this. Some of you are going to get super mad at me right now, and I don't really care. This is my opinion, and I'm entitled to it, just like you all have yours. I think that the media is blowing this thing so far up beyond what it actually is. Now, that's not to diminish the areas that are seeing a lot more of this and diminish the people that are having problems from it. But I think when you look at the actual statistics, when you look at the health of the individuals who are picking this thing up, look, in America, why is this thing going to blast through America and hurt people? Because America's health, frankly, sucks. People don't take care of themselves. They don't get adequate sleep. They work themselves to death. They eat terrible food. They drive through the drive-thrus and they call that eating. And then when something comes along that actually challenges them and it breaks them, of course it's going to do. Of course that's going to be the outcome. Many of these people, 46 million people in the U.S. estimated, are taking drugs that suppress the immune system. So now we have a major infection that has a very, very high prolific rate of spread, and these people are being immunosuppressed. Yes, they're going to pick things up because they've made the decision to medicate their symptoms instead of to take care of their health. And that's really the fundamental problem of this whole thing. Is I think this virus would be far, far less dangerous if people actually, on a mass scale, took care of themselves. And that's part of what our mission is to help save 100 million lives, is to help get the information out there so that people can take preventative action before an emergency happens. Because when the emergency hits us, at that point it's too late. You can't get healthy before COVID, hits you. You can try. And you should be trying, but if you took care of yourself on a regular basis, then we wouldn't necessarily all be in this boat of mass quarantine. Because again, when you look at what's going to happen with mass quarantine, is you're going to just completely wreck the economy. Now, some people would argue, yes, but one life is worth the economy. I would argue against that, because when the economy goes south because of quarantines, it may not be 100% necessary. What you're going to end up creating is you're going to end up creating families whose entire savings and entire financial savings are completely shot, are completely destroyed, and they're gone. You're going to create massive wide-scale depression. You're going to create massive wide-scale job loss. Anyway, I'm going to quit ranting on that because that's not what this show's about. But again, do your best to take care of yourself. That's the best defense that you have. There's no prediction as to whether or not this virus is going to hit you, or whether it's not going to hit you. But the best thing that you can do is take control of your health today, so that you can minimize your risk of getting sick. Okay, let's see here. NAC. Somebody asked about NAC. Tracy wanted to know about NAC. NAC, how much to take? 1,200 to 1,500 milligrams is a great kind of immune supporting dose. Of course, if you want to ramp that up and do a more aggressive use, you can take up to 6 grams a day, provided your GI tract is able to tolerate it. And that would be in split dosing. So you can do, 1,000 milligrams at a time, really, really easy over the course of 6 doses over the course of the day to gut tolerance. Okay, did we catch them all? I think the questions are just continuing to come, but we're at the hour. So I'll get a couple more. Rice, do you feel like quercetin in place of vitamin C is a good alternative for people with kidney stone or oxalate issues? Yeah, it can be, because it won't increase the risk. Again, it's not exactly the same as vitamin C. It's different, but they share a lot of similar properties and effects. So Tracy wants to know, what should I give my kids to help support their immune systems right now? Tracy, go back. I've got a whole video on my top vitamins, minerals that you should be considering for immune support. And that video is inclusive of children. Dwayne wants to know best source of vitamin D. If we can put that up in the feed. It depends on whether you're trying to do high dose vitamin D or whether you're trying to do, maintenance. If you're trying to do high dose vitamin D, go to Gluten Free Society. There's a product called Ultra D3. And those are 50,000 unit pills. If you're just trying to do maintenance vitamin D, there's another product called Liquid D3, which would be a better option, because those are 1,000 international unit drops. So you could use either one. But again, if you're trying to do the high dose stuff that I was talking about a couple of weeks ago, you'll want to get that Ultra D3. Let's see here. Does MCT oil have the same effect as omega-3? No, it does not. It does not have the same effect as omega-3, not even close, not even in the same ballpark in terms of biochemical reactivity or impact or effect. Okay, what I'm going to encourage all of you to do is tune in again next week. I'm going to keep supporting you as we go through this thing, and I'm going to keep bringing new science and new information and new breaking stuff to you, just as much as you guys learn from me. I try to always come back to the table every week with something that I'm able to learn and something that I can add to this conversation to help you, to help your families get through this really challenging time. I wish you all the best. Again, if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, hit the like, give me some hearts, show me some love. And as always, make sure you give me that hashtag save 100 million lives, and spell it out. It's not 1 million, it's not 10 million, it's 100 million lives. Hashtag that for me. That's the way we're going to spread this message. And share this video with somebody you think could benefit from it. Look, we can help more people if we work together to help more people. And if we're all healthy, then the world's a better place. So again, wishing you excellent health. We'll see you next Monday for another episode of Pick Dr. Osborne's Brain. Take care. Love you all. Hey, if you've got a functional medicine or health question that you'd like me to answer for you, make sure you send me an email, glutenology@gmail.com, and we'll do our best to create a video answer just for you. Have a great day.